The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah! Go Cowboys!
This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchison, and Jess Navarez.
What's up, Cowboys Nation? Happy Thursday. Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys right here in the SWBC studio. I'm Nicole Hutchison, Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Christy Scales. Ladies, I missed y'all. How y'all doing?
Hi. I guess it has been a little.
It's been like a week.
It's been more than a week, technically.
8 days.
It's been a week and a day. That's a long time.
Too bad nothing's happened, huh?
I know, right?
You know? We had such high hopes 8 days ago that we would come in with so much to talk about.
I'm so glad Christy can laugh about it.
No, I think that I'm always amused when people say, what do you guys do in the off season? It's like there is no true off season in the NFL, and
not with this team, most certainly.
Not with this team, and certainly not with the week of the owners' meetings. You know, with the rules changes, and then of course at the owners' meetings, you've got the Joneses and the head coaches for the Cowboys. Make their statements, and then everyone takes off with that. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, quite a few new rule changes ahead of the 2024 season. Let's start with the kickoff rule change, though. First, they've moved it to where now, of course, kickers will still kick off from the 35-yard line. The other 10 players from the kicking team would line up at the opposing 40, and then the way that the receiving team will be lined up is at least 9 players will line up on in a 5-yard area between the 30 and the 35-yard line, and the kicker cannot cross the 50, and the rest of the kicking team, along with those and set up in that zone, can't move until the ball hits the ground, fielded, or lands in the end zone. So a lot of new different moving parts, but the same as the XFL does. Yeah. I think they took the data as far as that, just making sure there's not that many full speed collisions to kind of prevent injuries. What do y'all think about that, and how do y'all think this kind of helps the Cowboys?
I'm excited about it because it brings back one of the truly exciting plays in the NFL. And so I just remember every time you'd have, for example, a Devin Hester to drop back or something, or Patterson now who just signed. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's going to be dynamic, I think, and I think it's also going to change strategy as well. You know, you're not just – I think it's going to change the way people watch games. You're going to have to get back from your bathroom break or your concession break or your trip to the fridge after a score to get back, because you're going to want to see the kickoff because it's not going to be an automatic touchback as it's basically been for a couple of years. And we know Brandon Aubrey set a record last year with 99 touchball. You know, and I also we can but this ain't one of them. No. And so, no, I'm excited about it. I just wondered if you guys think it's a positive change.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing about the rule change is it gives opportunity for the special teams guys to really show their importance in this game, because I think when you're just getting touchback after touchback after touchback, you truly don't appreciate how much special teams is doing for the game and how much it does impact the game. So I think giving those guys a Kevontae Turpin, if he doesn't take more of a role on offense, we don't know. Just assuming it's still him. More of an opportunity to really take the ball further. And Christy, I think it was you that told me that. What was the percentage?
Like 21%.
Yeah, that were actually not touchbacks last season, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that needed a change.
And then the other thing was in the Super Bowl there were 13 kickoffs and none were returned, and so a lot of observers thought, okay, that's the signal for the change. If anything is going to change with the kickoff, it's going to be this, because you had this high scoring, Super Bowl and kickoff returns were a non-factor.
I also think shout out to Bones Fossil for spearheading this change, because that should show you how much of a gem he really is on this coaching staff. He's so smart, he's innovative, he's always thinking ahead, and I just think he doesn't get enough love and appreciation from the outside for everything that he not only contributes for the Cowboys, but really across the NFL as well.
And this thing going with the XFL, this is something that this is not something that he just came up with in the offseason. I remember us having a long talk about it at training camp out in Oxnard. Oh, wow. And what happens is during training camp, there'll be 2, maybe 3 times where the coordinators are made available to the media, and they'll put them on the podium. It'll be there on the tennis court. So it's a similar setting to what Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys head coach, does with his daily press conferences. But I'd been talking with Coach Fossil about this, and it was like the day before his scheduled press conference. And so we see each other the next day. He's getting ready to go. He's like, hey, I think I really want to talk about this, stuff, how the XFL does. It's like, okay, I'll ask you about it so that you can kind of be on record about it. So this isn't something that is just on a whim. It's something that has been studied and put a lot of thought into it. Aisha, what were you thinking?
I'm excited. Just like you, I think Jess mentioned that special teams is an element of the game that doesn't get enough attention, I feel like. And also, too, I mean, if you look at a lot of the playoffs games this past year, special teams was the difference. Even in the Super Bowl, saw special teams be a difference maker. Starting field position plays a huge role in time of possession. And I think a team like the Cowboys, who started at their own 20 or negative to that sometimes a lot this year, may be able to benefit from getting some better starting field position and being able to flip the field and things like that. So that's exciting. Furthermore, you mentioned that Bones was a part of this coming into play. Don't think he wasn't a part of it for a reason. I'm very curious to see what he has up his sleeve. He's a sneaky dog in some of the ways that he's able to implement some trick plays and things he can take advantage of. So I am also curious to see what he does with it, the rule changes, and how he kind of sifts through those and is able to navigate those to get some positive yardage for the Cowboys and be able to have this offense starting off at a better point in the field.
Yeah, and it's really going to change, I think, how you build the team as well. I think it's going to affect a couple of the bottom of the roster, kind of the 51 through 53 composition, because you're not just going to have one person back to field the ball. Yeah. You're going to have 2. Like, for example, this past year, it would have been Cavante Turpin and probably Rico Dowdle, each one taking a half. They're setting up at the goal line or the 5-yard line to return it. A Deuce Vaughn, except that Deuce was inactive most games last year, but if he is going to have a role in this. Again, I'm kind of taking last year and projecting, but I'm just saying it can affect things like that. The other thing is, Nicole, how you mentioned the kickers back at the 30-yard line, and of course your 10 teammates that would be covering, they would be running 30 yards downfield to get to the spot where everyone is going to be starting now that so the kicker has to stay back there, but those 10 guys, they're already on the other side of the field and they're 5 yards away from the guys who are going to block them. So you could go with some bigger coverage guys. You don't have to have these guys who are fast and can kind of get around guys.
God dang it, Christy, I was about to ask, what would you do personnel-wise because of, the close quarters that they have to work with now? Would
someone like Sam Williams now, we know that he can do it because he's fast, and, I mean, you have him at gunner on punts, for goodness sake, but that kind of body type would be more useful. I think Sam athletically is a freak, the way that he can run down and do that. Yeah. Most guys of that size can't run like that. Yeah. But it's really more of a scrimmage play, and that was part of the deal. This is more of a scrimmage play in terms of you're 5 yards away from your opponent, kind of like a linebacker from an offensive lineman. Yeah. And so I think it can change. You're still going to have your tight ends, your linebackers, but do you have are you going to have like a Jalen Tolbert who plays gunner, but would he be a guy that you would use in coverage when there's only 5 yards apart? I think that the implications for this are far more than making it an exciting play, and now we'll have 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 returns in a game. I think the implication reaches further in terms of how you compose your roster.
One of the cons that I wrote down was it would take away from onside kick opportunities when you're in those close games.
Yeah. Well, but they figured for that. Yeah. So if you want an onside kick, now you have to declare it, and you do it from back at your own 30. Okay. So there aren't going to be surprise onside kicks anymore, and so I think that's a positive because the dangerous plays. certainly kickoff returns are, because of the way it previously was where you're running downfield. But when you're doing an onside kick, there's some guys' jobs where it is to take out the person in front of them so that it can open it up for the guy coming in behind to take the ball. And so those are very, they can be dangerous plays. And so, you're still going to have the same kind of format for it and alignment, and everything stays the same with that, except that it can't be a surprise anymore and teams can be more prepared for it. The other thing is, it won't succeed as much because it won't be a surprise and everyone will have their hands teams out there.
Yeah, and it seems like the league is doing everything that they need to do to take precautions as far as injuries. They also took away the hip drop tackle will be a penalty now.
Good.
Thoughts on that?
Good. About dang time. That's my thought on it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did we have to see this happen and nearly either injure a player? And I'm not even talking just the Cowboys. I'm talking throughout the course of even last season when you look back and think about it. Nearly injure somebody or actually injure somebody. How many times did that have to happen until it was declared that, hey, that's dangerous and that shouldn't be happening? And I understand the momentum part of this game where sometimes it just happens, but no, look, I'm all about player safety. I think it's about time. It needed to happen. It was dangerous. And when you're talking about getting pulled from behind where you can't see the momentum shift, I mean, you're talking knees, ankles, hip injuries that just are unnecessary and preventable. So I'm glad that that's finally a rule.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of players don't like it, of course. And I understand them feeling like, dang, this is another rule. Especially, too, I think another rule change that's important is the roughing the passer and stuff being able to be reviewed. Because I do think that defensive players are starting to be like, all right, how we play defense? Right. You can't hit nobody. You can't tackle anyone or anything like that. I definitely have talked to multiple players about it, gotten some mixed bag as far as the information. But me, when I look at the tackle, you mentioned that, a lot of it's from behind. Yeah, because guys don't want to get beat. And when your body goes into like fight or flight, panic, they're just trying to get them down to the ground. And it's interesting because I'm very petite. And in the military, when we did combatives, literally how they tackle is something I was taught because I'm so small. And basically, you're just throwing your weight. I mean, you're just grabbing them and pulling them down. And what you're guaranteeing is that person's unstable on the other side, and that's why you're seeing the breaks. That's why you're seeing things like that go on. So I am for player safety. I understand the defensive players are kind of over it at the same time. So it's going to be interesting how it's handled, but I will say the influx of that tackle, and I'm trying to figure out if this is something that's been happening and it wasn't injuring people, so we weren't as hyper-focused on it, or we've just seen this last couple years an uptick in it.
Mark Andrews for the Baltimore Ravens. That's the big example from this past season.
Yeah.
And, of course, Tony Pollard from
It's a technique thing as well.
Sure.
Don't get it twisted. I mean, we've only been in the locker room for two years at this point, but some of this stuff is just get them down to the ground. Yeah. Unfortunately. And I'm really curious to see if this is going to help the situation. It does put pressure on players. It does make them have to be a little bit more technically sound with things. But I'm kind of sick of seeing leg breaks and stuff too. I ain't even gonna hold you. And I don't know if we've seen this type of and it's the way, because even so, people have not gotten injured. Like Patrick Mahomes got tackled with a hip drop tackle in the Super Bowl, and last year. And he played through that ankle being sprung, but he could have injured himself as well. He could have been out of that game.
Then the rule would have changed last year.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that it probably knowing them, it probably played a role. But I'm just saying, I think about even when Aaron Rodgers got hit in the collarbone, and that's when the roughing the passer thing. They're gonna protect these offensive players and things
Tom
like
Brady
that.
going low,
ACL, and things like that. So for sure. I'm very up and down about it because I get it from a logical standpoint, I hear the players though. But then I'm like, I don't want to see nobody ankle bent backwards again, y'all. I'm sick of seeing
That's
it.
the kind of play, though, that could be a difference maker. Now, with them knowing it's officially a rule, you're going to get penalized for it. It's going to be interesting to see the discipline, especially in the teams that you know are more notorious for doing it. The Lions. Look, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
So
All I'm saying is, look, let's keep an eye on the penalties and how that's going to impact players or teams that don't want to be disciplined in making sure that they're not doing that. And I'm interested to see the scapegoats that they try to find to still kind of tackle from behind without making it look like it's a hip drop tackle.
Well, when you say discipline and penalties, part of it, the bigger part of it for the players and why it's going to change moving forward is because of fines.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can be fined for these dangerous plays like the helmet to helmet for the roughing the passer. And that's what gets the players' attention. It's the only thing they like worse than a player's attention is the only thing they hate worse than being penalized is getting that note, that FedEx letter in their locker, and the money's automatically taken away. You can appeal it, but basically later on down the line, it's going to be deducted from your paycheck. That's why it's going to change. And the players will adapt. They adapted with the horse collar, which is the Roy Williams rule.
Yeah.
Longtime Cowboy fans know that's unofficially the Roy Williams rule. Do you see horse collars sometimes still? Sure,
Rarely.
Unfortunately, but not like you did before. Do you still see helmet-to-helmet shots?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, but nothing like you saw before. It became not only a penalty, but a finable one. And so that's why this hip drop rule is really going to have effect, is not only is it going to be 15 yards with a yellow flag, it's a potential and probable fine.
Yeah. So what does this do for these position coaches? Because Aisha talked about it just being more disciplined, technically sound. So what more does that do for these position coaches that have to teach, this?
Well, I'm curious about it because a lot of the time, like Jess was mentioning, it's from behind. So guys don't want to get beat. Nobody want to be highlight reel, baby. But I also think I'm curious to find out how they're going to tackle because if they tackle properly, you're pushing someone forward most of the time.
Positive yardage.
And that's why a lot of them are tackling in the way that they're tackling because they're pulling them back, basically. So I obviously we don't know yet. Hopefully, maybe when we get a player on, we can ask, hey, how is this going to change? What techniques are they going to teach these guys? Because you can't tackle like you're taught to tackle. You can't form tackle. Because if you form tackle, baby, you're going to push people forward. So it's like, I wonder, I don't know how it's going to work. Maybe it's trying to push them to the outside. Maybe it's coming from the side, but then you would have to be able to be as fast as the guy.
Well, but if you push them forward, they're going to get several more yards, but they ain't going to get 15.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be 15 if it's a penalty.
Do you feel
or
like
they might be
go-
tripping? They might start tripping.
that's
tripping
what I was
guys
gonna
up.
say.
What
Take their
about-
feet out from under them.
And
No,
what
you're
about
right.
guys for example, like a Damone who was smaller than a lot of the guys he had to take on? What do you do about that as well? That's no shade to Damone. That was not shade.
It's
I'm
not meant to
sorry.
be
I was about to
shady.
say.
No,
I mean, like,
no,
but what do
that's
you
a fact.
do?
I mean, I don't, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
We
I
don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Probably tripping, like you were mentioning, kind of going for the feet area and kind of making them stumble. But even then, I mean, if you're doing what you're paid to do, you're going to get past that too as far as a wide receiver goes. You're going to get out of that and learn how to regain your footing. But
It does. So
it's going to be interesting to see.
So it's
I hope it doesn't go from hips to knees. That's my biggest thing is I don't want to start seeing tackles hit the knees because that's pretty much just as
I think that's might be the only choice because again, like they can't go up here because of the horse collar. They can't pull them from behind in that way. They can't tackle them like we were talking about. They can't like wrap them up and then
Swivel,
pull them back or swivel or swing.
Does
or
it
whatever.
almost change the defensive formations that they're going to have to work with to ensure that more people, I guess, are in front of the receiver as opposed to kind of tackling from behind now?
No, that's too
I don't know.
much. They
That's
ain't gonna be able to do
dangerous.
all
That's
that.
too much room for them.
I mean, I don't. I'm just saying.
No,
like,
you're right,
if
but
you
they
can't-
are. That we can't. Well, you can't reinvent the wheel, baby. Like football can't become, and that's why that's where I get where the players are, especially the defensive players, are like, holy crap, bro. Like, we literally were just trying to figure out, we're now learning how to tackle QBs now. We don't know what's the sure way to tackle QB. And now you telling me I can't. And then you also got to think, too, you got some running backs in this league that's, baby, they running through arm tackling. They don't care about none of that. So it's a disadvantage to the defense. It is. It's a disadvantage to the defense, and I understand their frustration. I don't know. It's gonna be some interesting football.
It's also one more thing for the officiating crew that they have to look at too. So, and will it be?
They're busy already.
What I don't know if it would be automatically reviewable. It hasn't been addressed yet as to whether that would be possibly review from up top or not. So
I hope
that's
not.
a question I have to follow up on. See if I can find out.
It's gonna slow down the game so much, baby. Every time somebody say "ouch," we over here. Just take a look. I hope not.
Is there another rule that was changed, Chrissy, that kind of stood out to you?
Well, I just think having a third challenge for a coach. If you get in the past, each team, a coach has 2 challenges. If the first 2 are successful, then you get a third. Yep. Now, only one of the first 2 has to be successful, and you're allowed a third. So I think that could definitely come into play.
We could have used that. I don't know what game it was that the Cowboys played towards the end of the year, and you was like, I felt like if Mike McCarthy would have challenged, you would have won. It was a spot they had. I don't know what game it was, but they had a bad spot.
It was towards the end.
I don't know. It was a later game in the season, and they got a bad spot, and we was sitting. The spots was bad all day, and then but one of the spots was a pivotal part in the game, and it was like, dang. Mike, you would see that? I don't know which game it was. But anyway, it's fine.
And another one, just real quickly, because I know we got to go to break. But now, you know how sometimes you're watching and you see the play clock clicking down, right? And it's like, did they get the snap off? And now that is actually reviewable. So that could play.
Nice.
Yes, that could play a factor in a game at some point this season.
That would have been nice in the past.
The back judge, there are 7 officials on the field. The back judge is the one that's like literally 30 yards downfield behind the defense, behind the safeties, and so he's surveying the whole field in front of him. All 22 players and 6 other officials are in front of him. And so he's looking at the play clock. And so when he sees it go down to 0, he glances back to see if the ball has been snapped. And sometimes there's literally this much time in between, the clock going down and the ball being snapped. Now it can be reviewed in case the back judge didn't quite get it right.
Real quick, sorry, I was curious about Mike's challenge record since he's been in Dallas. His total challenge record throughout his coaching career, he's 51 out of 103. Since he's been in Dallas, he has challenged 7, 8, 9, 10 challenges, and he's won 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, so 40% in 4 seasons. He's only challenged 10 times?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, and there's been times where...
Yep. And it looks like...
You'll challenge more because now you've got more leeway.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. The most challenges he had was in 2021, where he had 5, and he only got 2 out of the 5 that year. But last year, he only had 1 challenge, and he was 1 for 1. So technically, 100%. We love that.
Yeah. All right, ladies, so we're going to take our first break. Up next, we're talking running backs. Could we see a reunion here? I don't know. All right, we'll take our first break. You're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Wow.
Gotcha.
We'll be right back.
Today is today.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby. The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
for the Country Sip and Stroll in the Star District on April 17th. Enjoy themed sips and bites, country music, photo moments, gifts, shopping, exclusive offers, complimentary Western takeaways, and more, featuring over 15 participating stores and restaurants in the Star District. Get your tickets at thestardistrict.com. Yeehaw.
Sounds fun, actually.
It does.
really cool.
Yeehaw!
Oh my God, I love it.
Perfect.
Is that a sound?
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris
That
Beam
wasn't
is on
me.
fire today.
Do you think that was me?
No, I thought it was Chris. I was about to say,
Yeah.
dang, Chris.
Yeah. I love it. And
Chris, I would love to hear your best yeehaw,
and-
though.
Going to give us one, Chris?
Come on,
One of
Chris.
yours and not a recorded one?
We want to hear it.
No, that was
Yeah.
Isaiah's standback, by the way, if you guys haven't
Isaiah,
noticed. I'll play it for you one more time, so listen.
Yeah.
Yeehaw!
Oh, it is Isaiah.
Yeah, I can
even
hear it
better
now.
You can
now.
He
hear it.
did it on Talking Cowboys
I
one day.
hear
and
it.
I
clipped
love it. Also, thank you, Chris. The expiration, the change in reviewing the end is game clock and not play clock. So that has nothing to do with the back judge watching the play. So end of game. So thank you, Chris, for that correction on that.
Thank you. All right. Reports from Michael Gelkin from Dallas Morning News. Actually, earlier, I think that was Tuesday, he said that there could be a reunion between Ezekiel Elliot and the Dallas Cowboys. He asked in the owners' meeting this week. Of course, Jerry and Steven, they did not confirm or deny that report. What are y'all's thoughts? Do y'all think that there could be? Would y'all like to see a reunion? I know Jess is over there like,
I wouldn't be shocked. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
Is look,
she's stressed.
do something.
Yeah.
Just do something. We can't just look. The Cowboys can't continue to just sit here and lose players and not fill the holes and the gaps that are needed and expect to get better that way and solely rely on the draft, because that's a lot of pressure to put on your draft class that, I'm sorry, last year's draft class didn't live up to expectations to be plug-and-play players. It makes me a little worried that that could be the case with some of the players in this draft class. I'm not saying all, but that's a lot of pressure to put on a first-year player that's learning what it is to be in the NFL. You have to give these first-year players grace. No matter what your stance is, they can be plug-and-play players, but they need grace in the NFL to learn a new language, to understand a new system, to understand what it is to be an NFL player and an NFL player for the Dallas Cowboys. Two different things here. So to bring a guy like Zeke back, if they decide to do so, you're getting a guaranteed guy that knows what it is to be here. You're already paying cap space for him. You're already paying him technically. You might as well use that money so you don't have to pay anymore. It makes sense. I know there was questions about his productivity and what he's able to do still. Look, it's Ezekiel Elliott. He's not the Zeke we once knew. We knew that, but when he was here, guess who was number one scoring in the red zone? Ezekiel Elliott and the Dallas Cowboys. So you can't tell me all that juice is taken out of him. He was with the Patriots last year. Wasn't his best year. Wasn't the Patriots last year. Wasn't Belichick's best year either. But the point is if you can get a plug-and-play player that knows how to come in, knows your system, knows your coach, the locker room loves him, do it. Because you need to do something to get better. And I think when you have an Ezekiel Elliott in the locker room, you're a better team because of it. And you guys know how I feel about Zeke in the locker room. Great guy, great leader. He can teach the younger guys. I mean, he's willing to do what he needs to do. And what more can you want? I'm off my soapbox
Well,
now.
two things for me. There is some concern about what the running back room looks like right now. I believe you have Deuce Vaughn, Hunter Lipke, who I thought showed some good flashes last year and kind of showed maybe if he improves as that fullback position that he can do some things. Also, too, you always obviously brought back Rico Dowdle, but the buck stops there. And so to that point, Jess, I mean, experience and things of that nature do play a role in there. So technically it makes sense, but I also need the Cowboys to stop being that person that we know from high school that can't let go of their ex. I'm just
That's a good way to put it.
I'm just ready like to figure out what's next. Most teams are going younger. Most teams are kind of trending in a different direction as far as what the running back position even looks like. Because even if you look at this draft, there's only like 3 guys that I consider thumpers. And when Zeke came out, that's what people were looking for. They were looking for ground and pound. And a lot of these guys now are a little bit more shifty. You can do some things in the receiving game. You still need to be able to help out in pass pro, things like that. But I'm on the fence about it because, like, to your point, this running back room is a little scarce right now as far as experience goes and things like that. But I'm also like, don't go in the opposite direction, because most teams are not going in the opposite direction. They're trying to get younger, faster, and more elusive from a passing game perspective as well. So that's how I feel about it.
And it's not an either or thing. You know, if Zeke comes back, like you say, it's obviously not to be the featured guy. And so I think that his coming back depends on which running back they draft. I think there's no question that they're going to draft a running back.
They're they've shown interest in quite a few running backs through the combine process and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so Zeke would be a great complementary back. You know, if you don't get one of the thumpers, if you don't get a guy who can run inside and be a short yardage guy.
If he's cheap, maybe bring him in, because, again, you don't have any like Deuce was inactive a lot, which was annoying, but he was inactive a lot. We've talked about the run game and just schematically what it was. Too, I mean, you also got to think about it for a guy like Zeke to come in, unless he's just doing goal line things. We don't know what this offensive line is going to be like also, too, going into next season. So that also plays a role to me, and what type of running back you're looking for. Do you want a guy that can see it and just go? Because maybe that hole is not super big or it's not open up quick enough with this offensive line. There's a lot of factors that play into it, but I will concede that it would make sense, given that they have not touched free agency. Really, I don't really know how many running backs in free agency are left, because Cordell Patterson was someone I was like, y'all, please, he gonna cost like $5. Just bring him in here, see
and
if
help with your return
and help with your return game. Be a veteran, whatever the case may be. But I mean, he probably is the best option right now.
I think Dalvin Cook is mentioned as a possibility.
I think at this point, though, in order for them not to be the high school, the high school X, they missed that boat. It's too late in free agency now.
That's fair.
To not be that anymore, because you had options available and you didn't have the cha-ching to do it.
Too late though?
I mean, to get like a splash running back that
one of the
you
top,
really
Josh Jacobs.
I'm saying if you wanted to be all in and not be the high school ex-girlfriend, like the big names are gone already.
You could have had the Giants X, or you could have had the Raiders X.
Don't get me started on Aaron Jones.
You know that's how the NFL works.
But that's the point.
Yeah, from a money standpoint, just so you know, last year Zeke, of course, the Cowboys were paying him dead cap space last year too, but when he signed as a free agent with the Patriots last year, he signed a 1-year, $3 million deal. Okay. As for you mentioned, you're paying him again this year, so he counts $6.04 million against the Cowboys cap. So and then right behind him at $6 million is Tyron Smith.
You might as well just put that money to use.
You'd have to pay him on top of that.
But at least you're paying him to play for you and not another team. You still have to pay him on top of that. But I'm just saying, and if you're talking about offensive line that it might be struggling because we don't know what it looks like, Zeke can block. You know he can block, and you don't know
if your rookie running back can. Yeah, if he's playing a lot.
Yeah, because Tony stepped up a lot there this past year.
And as much as people don't want to give him credit, MG was blocking his tail off this last season. He's not here anymore. So again, you have holes that you need to fill in terms of blocking. It stems from the offensive line, but there's more parts to it. Zeke can do that too. So I don't love the idea of going back to your past. I agree with you, but at this point, the situation you're in, you kind of have to either do that. You can go with the Dalvin Cook, who also has experience, but you need something. You can't just sit here and wait for something to happen. Something has to happen. They have to go out and do something.
I have a question. As of today, Rico Dowdle is running back one. As of today, if the season were to start today, do y'all have faith that Rico could be that feature back? Honestly, I mean, I just want to know.
No, they're going to draft a running back.
I mean, I know that, but I want to know if we have confidence in Rico Dowdle that he could be a future back.
As a person and skill set, I like him.
Yeah.
But he has an injury history, so you have to. I'm looking at it holistically.
Yeah.
And so it's just like almost like a Leighton Vander Esch. It'd be great if he decided to come back, but even if he wanted to, you couldn't count on him to get through the season.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but I think you have to look at the whole deal. And as much as I love Rico, and I do, but he has an injury history.
I think he wants it, and I think he's worked extremely hard to be where he is. There's a lot of players that would have given up after year of injury, taking him out of the game, and there's a reason the Cowboys have kept him around this long. When he is healthy, yes, I absolutely believe he could be the featured back. Last year, he was dealing with the nagging ankle injury, which isn't a reoccurring injury. The reoccurring injury that has been happening in the past was his hip. So that wasn't bothering him last season. I talked to him a lot about his health and kind of what he was doing in order to stay healthy. And it was just like we talked about Tyron Smith, how they kind of changed his practice schedule and his rehabbing and all of that. Same thing for Rico. They had to kind of adjust what he was doing in order to stay healthy. And for the most part, I mean, that nagging hip injury didn't come back last season. So it was the ankle injury that you could see got dug into, I don't remember what week it was, but you could see it happen. And that was kind of what was happening. He was still playing on it, though. So again, I think when he's healthy, yes, but also you haven't seen enough of him. You saw more of him last season than you've seen, but that wasn't enough to really know. So training camp's going to be real fun no matter what happens, and he's somebody that I want to see how he does now going forward.
This is his opportunity.
Now or never.
And that's pretty much all I got about that.
Mm-hmm. And we should also mention Malik Davis, because he would step up into kind of the Rico role. If Rico were first. And then the other thing is, I think we're going to see more and more of Hunter Lipke. We saw the way that McCarthy used the Kuhn and the fullbacks. Always in Green Bay. It seemed like he was a guy that you could always count on to make a play, Kuhn. And so you could see that for Lipke moving forward, and he could be your short yardage guy too.
Agreed.
But he's more of a traditional fullback, though.
Well, I would actually push back on that. Like, Hunter is a running back.
Running back. Or the other thing is, we didn't see him a lot. I think we're going to see him more this year, a part of a passing game too.
Absolutely, he can do some things in a passing game. He can do some things in short yardage situations. I thought that his blocking and the angles he took and his vision improved as the year went on. I agree. I think Hunter Lipke is going to definitely take a tick up this year in his usage. And also, too, if you look at some of the better teams, having a fullback is a valuable thing when you talk about how light some of these linebackers, defensive linemen, those guys are starting to get. If you have a guy that can get to the second level, then that can open up some big plays. And I thought that he was a good addition to the team last year, just kind of getting his feet wet. Yeah. Definitely expect for him to have a tick up this year. And it might tell us, if they don't, honestly, if they don't go take a Zeke, if they don't go grab anyone else, it might tell you that, they're reserving that role for him, and they're just going to go draft another guy.
I feel like they kind of were doing that until the fumble, I believe, in week 16, which after you look back at it, it wasn't just on him. It was also the handoff from Dak.
There was communication issues there.
And so I think at that point they kind of took a step back and they scaled back, but they were giving him more and more leeway up until that point. They were using him at the goal line a lot more. So to your point, I really think that's something that now with his first year under his belt, he was an undrafted free agent who had really no expectations coming in here. He absolutely deserves his second year to get more opportunity and see what he can do with it.
All right, well, on that note, we're going to take our second break. You're watching Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Register now for the 2024 Dallas Cowboys Youth Camps presented by Invisalign. Athletes of all skill levels, ages 6 to 16, are invited to learn from the best this summer at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Football camps are led by former NFL players, and dance camps are taught by current Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Register before May 17th to save $25. Visit dallascowboys.com/camps. Yay. $25. Go save it.
$25 camps. That's actually
Well,
nice.
you're saving $25.
You're saving $25.
They're more than that.
That's why you should go to dallascowboys.com/camps to save $25 before May 17th.
My bad. Okay. Whew.
I'm trying to save y'all some money.
Yeah, and the camps this summer
false
take place
prices.
here at the Star in Frisco. Everything's indoors, and let's see, there are 2-day camps, 3-day camps. So and they're throughout the summer. So it's whatever best fits your schedule. And most of the people that attend the camps actually come from out of state. So even from out of the country. We have folks coming from Canada and Mexico. We've had people come from Japan, and so that's one of the things I enjoy about emceeing the final afternoon is finding out all the people that travel and make their vacation plans around the camps. Wow. So, yeah.
I have a couple friends who bring their kids, and they say that it's actually very beneficial for them to get some of that one-on-one time with some of these coaches and some stuff like that. And then the parents also make friends and make connections when they're here as well. So it's a good time.
I don't have kids. Long time before that happens. So
Amen.
I have dogs and a cat, so there you go.
Yeah, I
Those are my
don't
kids.
either. My husband says we'll get a dog if I can remember to feed it. Then we'll consider having children.
Wow.
You know, you can take. I have plenty. You have 2 dogs and a cat, so you can take one of them with you and have them for the day or whatever if you ever feel like you need that.
Thank you. I'm kidding. I actually do have a dog, Abby Bear, named after Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
That's right.
The little stuffed. My Abby Bear, it's a stuffed animal, and it's kind of the MVP that you get. So the DCC each week, a different person. It's the Above and Beyond, ABBEY. So those of you that have seen or have one of those DCC Abby teddy bears that you get from the pro shop, it's for the Above and Beyond award, the Abby Bear.
There you go.
Okay, well,
I got a dog. She's a monster.
your dog's a monster, Jazz?
Yes. Yes, I got
She's
videos
not
to
a
prove it.
monster.
I don't
She's a
believe
monster.
that.
She's 6 years old. She's a monster.
That's high energy.
Puppy.
Yeah.
Puppy energy.
What kind of puppy
I'm
is
so
it?
sorry.
Shorky poo.
Oh.
And what's,
what?
Shorky poo.
and what's her name?
Jade with an eye.
Oh.
It's ghetto. I love it.
It's all right.
Bye.
Real quick, ladies.
Get
We
off
knew
of
that
here.
coming into free agency, obviously, that the Cowboys would have had the choice between Jordan Lewis and Stephon Gilmore, picking one of those guys to stay here with Dallas. Of course, they re-signed Jordan. But now, still no word on Stephon Gilmore and whether or not he'll be returning. But I know Stephen Jones did somewhat address that room a little bit. He didn't say 100% whether or not they will be bringing him back or not. What are y'all's thoughts on whether or not, what you'll be missing from what Gilly brought to that room?
Leadership and veteran experience. He was the reason that your secondary stood a chance after Trayvon Diggs went out so early in the season. And that's no shade to anybody in that room.
Yeah.
J-Lou admitted how long it took for him to reacclimate after his foot injury and just kind of, no pun intended, seriously, get his footing back in, because it's hard to do when, especially with a foot injury, your muscle memory comes back in. It was hard for him, and he talked a lot about that. But somebody like Stefan Gilmore can come in, be a plug-and-play player and an impact maker. So you have your plug-and-play players that are going to come in, you're going to play, but you have an impact maker and a difference maker to have both of those in one player is special, and Stefan Gilmore is that player. So I think that's what he brought more than anything. But Steven's comments didn't make me optimistic. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not very optimistic that you'll see him wearing a star again.
Yeah, I mean, from a depth standpoint, I mean, we've talked about it even on the draft show, is that, corner might be something that they need to look at because, I think you still have Deron Bland. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs is locked up. But behind that, most of those guys are like 1-2 years away from not being on this team anymore. And then when you look at even the guy like Eric Scott that they drafted late last year, unfortunately, he was a guy that Dan Quinn drafted. And when you have a new coach come in, a lot of the time, they have different visions. They want to have their guys. So it also puts some of these young guys that are down the roster at the position in a place to where they're going to have to show what they're made of and see if they appeal to the new coach and what he's able to do. Now, I will say with Trayvon Diggs coming back from an ACL, I don't have the expectation that he's going to just automatically very quickly be that Trayvon that we expect. I know he did get injured early in the season, so he may be a little bit more ahead, but I just the Stefan Gilmore thing was also insurance in a way that I think is a luxury in the NFL to have someone like him to his caliber as insurance. So tough as nails to play with a rotator cuff injury through a playoff game. A little crazy, honestly, too. I mean, but it's sad to see him go because, I mean, just some of the conversations I got to have with him, he's such a teacher. And he'll teach you without even realizing it, just in conversation. So to your point, Jess, I think that this locker room's going to miss him. I think this young locker room, a lot of those young guys in the secondary are going to miss him because Trayvon even mentioned that he's been mentoring him since he came into the league. So they're connected at the hip anyway. So, it is what it is. You're going to have to figure it out at this point. So
it's also so disappointing knowing you didn't get to see a lot of Trey and Gilly on the field together because that was just so exciting. The thought of seeing both of them in the backfield, just, man, two ball hawks. But, yeah, youth has to step up. At some point, take what he taught them and go from there.
Right. And, he was $10.98 million Gilmore against the cap last year, and they can't afford that the way that they're managing the cap now and the way they're trying to apply their resources and set up the cap not just for this year but future years. So it's unfortunate. And but you miss them on the field too, and not just all the pro stuff. Because there were a couple games at the end of last year where the Cowboys had their top cornerback travel, basically go man to man with the top receiver for the other team instead of just playing sides.
That game with DK Metcalf
and
come on.
So when they traveled a player towards the end of last year, it was not Deron Bland, it was Gilmore.
I mean, just the way he stepped up in that Seahawks game. To see that fire in him.
That was, again, just to remind everyone, Metcalf kind of trash talked Gilly early in that game, and Gilly
didn't he call him old?
Called him old. Called him old, and then
who's old now?
Gilly shut him down.
Not Gilly.
And you're getting a guy, like all of y'all said, but you're getting a guy whose durability is off this roof. I know he got injured before the playoff game and still played through it, but I mean, for a guy at his age, what is he, like 30-something?
31.
32, 33?
I think he's 33 now.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a durable guy.
And the tackling girl. Because that's one thing about Gilly. When they first signed him, I looked back at his film the year before, and I'm impressed with the coverage, but I'm also just impressed that he's not a huge guy. We've seen him in person. Yeah. He's not a huge guy, but his willingness to tackle, it also sets the example for those young guys that, hey, man, you can be great in coverage if you want to, but if you're not going to tackle nobody coming off this edge, then what are we talking about here? He really he's such a total cornerback, and you just don't get to see that in this league that often. So, gonna miss him, but we understand what's going on.
He takes care of his body too, to your point, Nicole, because I remember during training camp, Trey was talking about how he was eating, like, I think a bag of candy or something, and Gilly was like, what are you eating that for? And Trey was like, oh, okay. Like, he kind of was showing the guys how to take care of their body, so we'll see.
Definitely a guy, well, hopefully comes back, but if not, we understand, like Aisha said. That's a wrap for today's episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!